America's Project Freedom was intended to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Instead, shipping lanes remain blocked, global financial markets are reacting to the supply disruption, and miles of commercial tankers are currently sitting dead in the water. Iran is holding its position, demanding tolls for passage and effectively closing the strait to international trade. Standard diplomatic pressure and military posturing from Washington have yet to produce a resolution. With the situation at a stalemate, the U.S. administration is making a sudden diplomatic pivot. They are traveling to Beijing to seek intervention from their primary global competitor. The immediate fallout of this trip is already being noted. According to a former U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, the pivot toward Beijing caused the relationship between Washington and India to fall into the gutter. This leaves a central question. Why is Washington willing to risk its strategic partnership with New Delhi to ask Beijing for help with a regional blockade? To find the answer, we have to look at the specific financial lifelines sustaining the Iranian economy. Iran is able to withstand American diplomatic pressure because its economy is shielded by a significant external benefactor. China currently purchases China's economy grew to $10 trillion by 2014, a milestone the U.S. hit in 2000. With China maintaining a 5% growth rate, the economic gap between the two powers is now less than 1.5 times. Beijing has also worked to internationalize its currency, distributing debt and positioning the yuan as a viable alternative to the U.S. dollar in global trade. Direct sanctions on a trade partner of this scale would likely trigger a global shift away from the U.S. dollar, threatening its status as the world's primary reserve currency. This is not the first time Washington has been pushed into a corner by a proxy conflict, seeking an exit through a rival power. In the early 1970s, the United States was heavily engaged in Vietnam, fighting a force that was secretly sustained by Chinese resources and support. In 1972, Richard Nixon traveled to China to negotiate an exit strategy with the government that was funding his opposition. Mao Zedong agreed to reduce support for Vietnam, but the price for that cooperation was the diplomatic abandonment of Taiwan. Washington accepted. Taiwan was stripped of its permanent UN seat and its veto power, which were both transferred to the People's Republic of China, providing Beijing with immediate global legitimacy and investment. Today, the cycle is repeating. Faced with a localized conflict it cannot resolve, the U.S. is once again moving toward a significant transaction with its primary rival to secure a face-saving exit. To resolve the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, Beijing is positioned to demand significant concessions, the reduction of tariffs, the removal of technological restrictions, and further U.S. withdrawal from Taiwan. There is no incentive for China to end the conflict quickly. Every day the Middle East remains tense, Washington exhausts more resources, while Beijing negotiates from a position of increasing leverage. But the most significant impact of this negotiation will be felt in India. By treating Beijing as the mediator, Washington grants China the ability to project influence across Asia. As economic and technological restrictions are lifted, China's ability to assert power will directly challenge India's regional security. Because Washington is now dependent on Beijing's cooperation, it will be less likely to intervene as China establishes dominance in the South Asian and Indian Ocean spheres. Resolving the blockade at the Strait of Hormuz may provide temporary relief for global markets, but the cost of the deal is a permanent shift in power, one that strengthens